Literally ridiculous.
Now it's a party.
Oh yeah. There he goes.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't usually hit the record button before we start talking, but I had to.
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's all good.
Oh man, that's funny.
So it's good. I can hear you. You can hear me good?
Yes, sir.
Nice.
Yes, sir.
Good.
So before we get started, hey dude, awesome job on those little nuggets of wisdom you've been putting out, man. Those things are awesome.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, really, really, really good stuff there.
It's basically, I have if I could show you the notepad in my phone of like, you know, in the shower, driving down the road, like these moments of sort of pondering life and what it all means to all of us and how we navigate it personally and professionally. I'm just like constantly ripping notes on my phone. And I have this always like this like grandiose vision of like producing all these like cool videos and inspirational videos around them. And I just sort of came to the realization that I just need to like turn the phone on in my car and like drive around on my meetings and driving in the morning and just talk about stuff, you know, and like anything else, I think the more I talk about stuff, the better that I'll get at it. And I think the more it'll make sense to me every time. And I feel like, you know, sometimes I shoot it and I post it and I was like, I watch it back and I was like, what is he talking about? Like, I was like, what are you talking about, Bobby? Like, get to your point, you know? So I'm like, it's been really refreshing to just do stuff.
Yeah.
And the more you do, you know, and like so many things are like, there's so much stuff out there about this, which is great, but to actually live it and to see that the more that you do, the more that you understand, the better that you get at it, and the more of like the mission reveals itself, you know?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. That's half the reason I do the podcast, is because, you know, I want to get the information out there, but whenever I go back and rewatch, I'm like, oh my God, you know how much I'm learning from everybody that I'm talking to?
Yeah.
You know, it's awesome. And funny thought on that. You know, I try to keep a little notebook too of like ideas and just stuff to talk about, stuff to do, but everything always seems to come to me when I'm in the shower and I can't really use the notebook. So there's been a couple times where my wife's got really long hair. You know, I don't know if you know what that's like, but
I know exactly what that's like, my man.
so you know what the shower walls look like.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
So sometimes I'll use her hair and I'll write a little note in the on the shower wall. So when I get out of the shower and get dried off, I can put it on my notebook, because otherwise I'll forget. But
dude, I got two things on that. First thing is, so the wife with the really long hair thing is definitely a reality in my house. And like when my wife gets out of the shower, like I don't even know what happened in there, but there's like it looks like Chewbacca took a shower, you know, and there's like hair all over, poor drains. And then so you're hitting on something that I was listening to a podcast last week. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but I've been having conversations with people about this very idea, which is, during the day, as we're going throughout our daily tasks and responsibilities and decisions that we need to make and different things that we're faced with, whether it's getting the kids to all the different things that they need to be at, to all the different stuff during the day with professional things and meetings and decisions, and our brain gets filled with stuff. Like it gets filled with all these things that we have to figure out, all these decisions that we have to make. And when your brain gets filled with it, it doesn't leave like pathways. It's like a river that's cluttered with stuff. Like it doesn't leave pathways for the other creative stuff. Sometimes it's like sitting down and like trying to be creative, you know. I recently so I was listening to two things. One is I think it was Steve Jobs every day took 2 walks a day. He left his computer, he went outside and he walked for like,
I heard that,
I don't know, 20 minutes, something like, yeah. So to me, when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, that's it. Like, that's literally it. You get so caught up in your own stuff that that you're not able to open the bandwidth or open those pathways in your mind to just allowing yourself to feel and absorb and just produce creativity from that. So I totally agree with you. My two moments of inspiration are always either in the shower when like nothing else matters, you're just taking a shower, and I'm like writing songs and like just like coming up with these ideas like crazy.
I'm a genius.
And literally, a shower genius. There you go. That should be a t-shirt.
Yeah.
Or it's laying down in bed at night, the whole house is quiet, it's dark, and your mind just starts ripping, man.
Yep.
My mind just starts ripping, and I constantly find myself doing one of two things: either like putting my phone too close to my bed than I like, and knowing that I'm going to be like, my mind is working on something, so I can just grab my phone and like rip stuff on the notepad, or literally getting out of bed 5 times a night and making notes on whatever it is that my brain is just firing on and ideating. Or the last part, which is the worst part, is, okay, Bobby, don't forget this. This is really good. You'll remember that. I'm trying to make myself.
There's no way I'm going to forget this.
I'm not going to forget. This is epic. This is world changing. And in the morning, you're like, what was that again? And I totally forget what it was. So.
Oh gosh, I know, dude. That happens to me like 9 times a day. It's ridiculous, but and you're absolutely right. I mean, we live in such a fast paced world. It's like Homer Simpson. Every time he learns something new, pushes something old out of his brain. I feel like that on a daily basis, man. It's like, it's ridiculous. Man. So anyway, though, dude, I've been loving your stuff. It's really awesome. So Thanks. Before we get any further, because this has been good stuff already, I got to say, let's get an actual introduction. Okay. And then just a couple of things. Make sure you're at the end, you plug whatever you want to plug. I'll ask where people can find you, that kind of stuff. And then hang out after I push the stop button, if I push the stop button. And we'll kind of recap it also.
Love it.
All right, cool, man. So you ready? You're born ready. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
All right, here we go. Welcome to another episode of Blue is the New White. Today I got a special guest in from Chicago. I had the pleasure of meeting him in Miami at the Fed conference. He was on my panel about YouTube. Hit it off right away. He's a really cool guy. You probably started to see his stuff on social media. If you follow me, chances are you know who he is. Mr. Bobby Buivid.
What's up, big guy? I'm well.
Good, man.
We made it. It's Thursday, and we made it to Thursday.
I know, right? Why don't you tell everybody kind of who you are and what your story is?
Wow. That is a long and convoluted response.
All right, that was great. Next question.
There you go. Done. Yeah.
Just kidding.
Let's see, man. I was born and raised in Boston, Massachusetts, just north of Boston. Grew up like a lot of kids out there, on the beaches, in the mountains, playing hockey, stuff like that. Went to school for marketing, always trying to kind of find my way. I always say that I'm a jack of all trades, a master of none. I am like the true definition of that. I just get interested in so many different things. So started my career out of school with experiential consumer marketing and branding. So developing, creating, and then deploying programs for different brands, mostly like product launches and things like that. So putting together like sponsorship packages and managing those sponsorships across different media, and then activating that sponsorship with things like mobile tours and experiential campaigns. I did that for the better part of a decade. At some point, I had moved to Nashville during that process because I love writing songs. I love music. I love your hummingbird behind you. That is on the wish list, on the bucket list. It's beautiful, beautiful guitar, beautiful playing guitar. But I love to play guitar. I love to write songs. So I moved to Nashville at some point along the way. Was writing songs, enjoying my time there. I spent a little over 5 to 7 years there, back and forth a little bit, and then I met the love of my life. I met my lobster, both in Boston and in friends terms. I moved to Chicago. And we've been here for about 11 years now. At some point early on in my Chicago tenure here, I got a little bit, I don't want to say burned out, but I kind of like had done the marketing thing for 10 years, and I was like, okay, this has been awesome. I know a lot about this, but like, what else is there out? What else is out there for me? So my wife's family, her parents immigrated from Greece a little over 40 years ago, and they started my father-in-law started a refrigeration installation refrigeration supply company. He was a technician and engineer in the Greek Navy, and came over here and brought that to the consumer level. And he was a refrigeration service technician, and he started sort of his little supply company off of the back of that. That slowly grew from a service company into a dealership, and then my brother-in-law really brought the sort of design build aspect into it, really brought the dealership end of it to life, where his dad was sort of running the service end, the installation end, and to some degree the sales end. My brother-in-law really took the dealership side and design build side, brought that to life. I came into the picture about 7 years ago, again, looking to make a career change, trying to figure out, still doing the songwriting as a hobby, as my pastime, but looking kind of for what my next milestone or my next threshold was going to be. And he's like, we could use somebody like you over at the company, marketing, branding, websites, digital stuff, what have you. Came over here, honestly fell in love with the whole process from day one, ended up doing more designing and more from a sales perspective than I did a marketing perspective for a long time. So got really into the gearhead stuff, got really into the equipment, really into working with chefs, designing kitchens for them, designing restaurants, and then sort of balancing my marketing and design responsibilities from there. Did that for about 6 years. Again, felt like I was, so there's a pattern here. Again, felt like I was sort of, apexing a little bit. And I was like, okay, what's the next thing now? And so actually moved back to Boston with my wife and family. I had a very good, one of my best friends out there is an executive chef, amazingly creative person. We had this idea for a restaurant. So I moved back to Boston, and we moved back to Boston, and we built and operated a couple restaurants. That was an invaluable experience. Designed it, GC'd it, engineered it, built it, installed it, operated it, marketed it, branded it. I mean, the whole thing. So was very, very fortunate and very grateful and very thankful for having to have the autonomy over something like that, because it really arms me with so much. I've just gone through it all. I've gone through it all, and to be able to work with chefs now again and work with helping them with their restaurant concepts, I've been there myself every step of the way, and so it just provides a certain level of intimacy and experience that makes me feel really good, makes me feel really powerful, makes me feel like I'm doing right by them, with a lot of practicality and a lot of having going through it and troubleshoot all of this stuff myself. So we did that for 2 years. And then my heart was pulling me back to Chicago for myself and for my family. And so we made the move back to Chicago. That was 12 months ago, and back into the design role, back into the design build role. With that being said, though, actually starting to morph myself into more of the digital role and to trying to bring original and creative programming back to the industry. It's a beautiful white space right now for a lot of that. It's a lot of opportunities there, as we all know. And so trying to build the infrastructure to be able to take some of the time away from the design build, which I love to do and I don't want to lose completely. I'd be curious to have you speak to that in your own company as well. Like, I don't want to lose that aspect of what I do, but at the same time, I really want to blaze the trail on the digital side and try to focus most of my my energy on that front. So there you go, man. I love hats.
So does
I
your
love.
buddy back there, apparently.
He likes hats. I like making shakes in the morning. Whatever else you want to know, just let me know.
Long
Yeah,
walks on the beach.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
no, man, that's really cool, and that's it's interesting. That's the type of story that I think is most fitting to a lot of people these days, because there's just, we were kind of talking earlier about how there's so much, in this crazy busy world of ours, and there's certain people like you and like me that kind of want to grab every little piece of it that we possibly can, and then God forbid we see a white space and we're like, oh my God, and I think that's really awesome. So I think that story in itself, before we even get into the rest of this stuff, is going to resonate with a lot of people, because if there's not a lot of people that have kind of done a lot of the jumping around and stuff like that you have, then they certainly have wanted to. So I think there's going to be a bit of intrigue there. Well,
You're preaching, man. I mean, I'm sorry. I just love that analogy though that you just said, because I've never thought of it that way, and it is literally my DNA to a T. Like
yeah,
driving down the road, talking to people, observing my daily life, and there's blank canvases everywhere.
yep.
It's funny. I've never thought of it that way, but you're teaching me a lot here today, buddy. This is
Well,
like I'm on the couch right now. You realize that
I do.
I'm on the couch, and so you're right. And the problem is, you said, God forbid we see a white space or a blank canvas. You're totally right. That statement just resonated with me because I can't help myself. Right.
Mhm.
You see it there and it's like, I have this great idea. Let's go down. I was like, Bobby, stay focused. You know what I mean? It's like a puppy that sees shiny things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They can't help but play with it. But you're so right, man. So it's a blessing, but it's also a curse as well that you kind of have to manage, you know?
Absolutely. There's a very fine line that you have to walk, on your path to success. Because if you see too many of those shiny objects, right, and you try to do too much, you could very easily stretch yourself very thin. And, and like you kind of, it sounds like you had long stints at between each one of these phases, if you will, and there's some people out there, I know some people out there that literally do this, but like every 2 months,
Yeah.
and that becomes a little bit of a struggle because, it's a great experience, right? A lot of experiences, but then you wake up and, you're 60 years old and you're like, wait a second, am I broke? Somebody tell me,
My approach has always been, and maybe this is the jack of all trade thing, but I mean, my approach has always been, if I get involved in something and I show interest in something, I can't help myself. And maybe it's because I'm a Sagittarius as well, and we kind of jump into things with 2 feet all the time. I can't help myself but to jump into it and try to be as proficient and dangerous as possible at that thing. But I have a ceiling. I always have a ceiling to where I get to the point where it's like, okay, I can do everything I want to do in this thing, or like software, let's say Adobe Premiere, right? So it's like, it's like, all right, I want to start editing my own videos. Well, I should learn Adobe Premiere. Okay, sounds good. Let's get an iCloud or Adobe Cloud, license and download the software that I need and start learning it. So I dove in for a certain amount of time and learned Adobe Premiere, right? And it's like, okay, I can do everything I want to do in Adobe Premiere. I know that if I go past this threshold, now it's start timing to bring someone else in. Now it's time to bring in the true expert. So I've been very fortunate to have adopted that philosophy from probably a really young age, to where I dive into things. I get really proficient at it right before you get into that level, and then I move on to the next thing. So I can work in Photoshop, I can work in Illustrator, I can work in Premiere, I can work in After Effects a little bit. I know how to shoot, you know what I mean? So that's been a really cool approach for me in my life, on a lot of different fronts. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that's the nail on the head, right? Is you just, you have to balance all of these different things that we want to do with self-awareness, right? And know where you are currently, where you want to be, and how to most efficiently manage what you've learned and what you're going to do next. And so self-awareness, I think, is key in that. So hopefully when people take away, what I'm saying here, they're not saying, well, Josh said to do everything there is to do, balance it with self-awareness and and jump in with both feet. That's really the only way to do. Don't dip your toe in, and just go to town, man. If you know that you like something, you want to do something, give it your all. That's the way that I've been too. I won't start something unless I'm sure I want to start it, but then when I start it, you better believe I'm going to finish it.
I mean, that's huge, man. I mean, I think it's different for everybody, right? Like self-awareness by definition is figuring out what works for you. It's going to be different for everybody. Like I've always been the person that didn't want to necessarily be the expert at that one thing. Like I have so many interests, and I'm interested in so many different things about life. I mean, take guitar for an example. Like I can play guitar. I'm not an expert guitar player by any stretch of the imagination. I can't go up there and rip some big solo and all that stuff, but I know a lot about it enough that I can really express what I want to express, and I'm good with that, And so it's move on to the next thing. And the nice thing is, for me anyways, And again, there's no, right, wrong, and different, whatever. For me, anyways, I love. It works for me to know a lot of different things and to be able to fuse all of those things together in whatever I'm doing. Right. So it's
Yeah.
like, whether it's, food service and the little videos I'm shooting, like all of these things really come together in sort of a beautiful fusion. And that seems to work really well for me.
Yeah, it sounds like it. So I'm curious. So you went from Nashville doing the songwriting thing and the music thing, right? But right from there to Chicago
Yes.
and got into this equipment business at that time. Is that right?
Yes. Pretty
So
quickly.
okay, so I'm curious of what your perception of that business was before you started doing it. Did you know about the trades? I mean, obviously you said this is your father-in-law, right? That was the technician from Greece, but even before, you met your wife and got to know him and stuff like this, had you developed any perceptions of that industry, and did you ever think that you would be in it?
I 100% never thought I would be in it. That's for sure. I just didn't consider it, my perceptions. Well, I would say this. I'll take you back to, as a kid, I was very fortunate to have a dad that was very proficient in the trades, in things like, fixing your own car, things like small, there's a problem with the lawnmower, let's tear the engine apart, let's figure out what the problem is and put it back together. So I am nowhere near as proficient as he's also he's also a Tom Selleck lookalike. He's won a bunch of Tom Selleck lookalikes. So I'm just going to give a shout out to my dad.
Nice.
It's pretty funny when you meet him. You're like, oh, it's Tom Selleck. That's weird. So so weird. And then when he wears the Hawaiian shirt and the Detroit baseball hat, it's even better. But so
Awesome.
anyway, so yeah, my dad's super cool. But he he taught me a lot of that stuff. We changed the oil together in our cars. We fixed the brakes together. I ripped the front end off the car. We're replacing carburetor, like all that stuff. So like, and I'm nowhere near as proficient as he is from a mechanical standpoint, but I have a lot of that, foundation, those fundamental stuff where I can do a lot of those things, and I'm definitely really thankful for it. So I think from that aspect, I'm grateful that I was exposed to that, because it gives me a much better appreciation of it now, for sure. But in terms of sort of like forwarding all the way to 10 years ago, I really didn't have much exposure to it. My perception of it was this, though. I remember having a conversation with somebody right when I got into the industry, and we talked about this idea that, like, getting into the food service industry, whether it's from a service standpoint, whether it's from a dealer standpoint, sales, whether you're a chef, whatever it is, it's food service industry. Getting into that industry is like getting into the medical field, right? There is an infinite amount of knowledge. It's funny. I liken it to, like, you're on the beach and you just like take those first step into the ocean. You just look out at the ocean. You're like, wow, that's a big ocean. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like the food service industry is a big ocean, man. In regards to, there's an infinite amount of variants that are out there for you to learn and for you to know. And I am very fortunate that I figured that out early on. And I was like, wow, if I'm going to succeed in this industry, and I think this applies to most industries, of course, but in an industry like the medical field, like the food service industry, I'm going to succeed if I just am a sponge and I learn and I research and I go out and I do and I find and I just try to acquire as much knowledge and as much practical application as I possibly can. It's like, whether it's an oven needs service or an oven needs to be sold. Great. There's 37,000 ovens out there that have some universality or universal nature to them, and then not universal at all, whether it's performance and cooking applications and controllers and electronics, like all this stuff, right? So it's like, I learned that really early on, that, wow, if I'm going to be successful, I kind of need to try to be a processor, man. Try to aggregate as much of that data as I could. So that was my original perception of the industry.
Yeah, and that's really cool, and I think that's important too, because there's a lot of people out there that think that, even let's just use the food service industry, you know, as one example of like the whole skilled trades, but the food service industry, I mean, people just don't know. They don't know they have their own idea in their head of what that means, right? Even if you just break it down to like, the service standpoint, even that small of a sector within the whole food service industry, people think, oh, well, turning wrenches, those who actually know about it, oh, turning wrenches and, fixing fryers and, being in kitchens and stuff like that. They don't see the whole picture, the sales, the marketing, the management, the parts, the dispatch, the just everything, the entrepreneurship, all of these different things that come along with it. And that's not to mention the other thousand positions there are out there, within that small sector of the industry. Um, so there really is, I think, something for everyone, depending on what they want to do, how they define success, and how they want to establish their path and way to get there. But they don't know. So how do we let them know?
Well, I mean, I think that the thing that rings true for me all the time is, I mean, knowledge is power, man. Knowledge is power. It's any field, it's every industry, and it's every segment or channel of our field. Knowledge is power. If you're going to open a restaurant, the more you know about the construction process, the more economical you can be, the more efficient you can be, um, just the better you can be. I would say that don't, well, one thing is, don't ever feel like there's a certain area of the field that you shouldn't know about, because you should know about it. I know that, like, again, opening a restaurant, I know that you're a chef and your focus is going to be executing the food service end of the operation, and you're going to be involved in everything else and maybe even lead the other things. But I would just say that don't take something like the construction end and not at least try to be extremely proficient in that end as well, because that's going to benefit the whole restaurant. um, I don't know. I don't know if that answers your question, but but
It's an answer. That's
it's an
good.
answer.
No.
Yeah, I don't know. But
That's
so
good.
that's my thing is knowledge is power. With if I'm able to interface with a chef, if I'm able to interface with a service company or a certified installer or an owner or a representative or a manufacturer, like whoever I'm interfacing with, the more that I know about the product or service that's happening, the more I can contribute, and the more powerfully, in a powerful way, I can contribute to a solution that's happening. So so I don't know. I
Yeah.
guess that's my thought. Yeah.
No, that's good. I like that. I like that a lot. So yeah,
But
this
are you
is
asking, like, how do we create more awareness to the industry and the
um
and the trades, or was it more
between you and me, I don't really know what I was asking. So,
okay?
no, no, and you know what? But that's a good take on it too. So what do you see about that? About creating more awareness to the industry and the possibilities that exist within it, all the different avenues and stuff we just talked about.
Well, I think it's different on every level. I mean, from what I experienced, I mean, there's a lot of commonality between the different channels. There's a lot of commonality between the different roles, but at the same time, they're also very different. Number one, um, it's certainly an industry for people that like to work hard. That's for sure. I don't care what channel you're on. I don't care whether you're a service company, whether you're a dealer, whether you're a manufacturer, fabricating the equipment, whether you're a chef and owner running the restaurant. I mean, it's an industry that if you don't like to work your ass off and you like to live what you do, then and love what you do, then it's definitely not an industry for you. There is no rest for the weary in this industry at all. And the nice thing about it is, if you love it, and it's actually amazing. I have like 6 back-to-back meetings today. It's I'm like ready to crush all day today. So it's an amazing industry to be in. I would say that um, you know one one thing I appreciate about what we do is it's I feel like it's an industry without stigma. Something I've been thinking a lot about lately, and I think there's a lot of commonality between um So a lot of commonality between, from a service standpoint, which obviously at the dealership here we have a service division. So I interface with that on a daily basis as well, other than just the design aspect. But I think it's an industry without stigma, and I've always really appreciated that about it. I had an experience in Boston at a really large restaurant out there with a good friend and partner of mine. And, the one thing that always admired me about at the restaurant level is it was an opportunity. I figure out how to say this. I mean, it was an opportunity to give people a chance that maybe other people wouldn't give. Maybe other people wouldn't give these folks a chance. And I see on the restaurant side, I see them do that. And I saw these guys do that. And I saw that not only did it work out, but people will flourish in these environments. They flourish, you know.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna name names, but there's one person that I've seen grow so much to the point of sort of running a kitchen that services a 15,000 square foot restaurant, and absolutely be stellar at their job, to be to the point where you couldn't fill their shoes. So I love that it's an industry without stigma, where it's sort of come one, come all, and there's going to be little to no judgment on the journey, on the previous journey before getting to this point, because we all have, we've all made mistakes, we all have pasts, we've all learned from that, or hopefully we have, and I think that that's something that I'm very appreciative of. So hopefully other industries can learn from the food service industry to sort of eliminate eliminate that stigma.
Yeah, and I like that. That's the first time I've heard that, but you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter in this industry. A lot of things that matter outside of this industry don't matter within this industry, because
Yeah.
everyone's got an objective. Everybody knows exactly what they're supposed to do. Everybody, and as long as you can do that and do that very well, then that's all that really matters, and that's the way that it should be. And so to pick apart a couple of things that you said, there is a stigma, but it exists outside of the industry, right?
Yeah.
And it's of the industry, and that's one of the stigmas. The other stigma that I think I want to touch on that you mentioned is everything in this industry is hard work, and there's a stigma that exists against the younger generations that they aren't hard workers, that they don't want to work hard, and I think that is ridiculous now at this point, that I've talked to so many of them now, younger generation Z, millennials, everybody. And the issue is not hard work. The issue is not that they don't want to work. The issue is we're evolving. I mean, we're constantly evolving. There's, a lot of these kids were born with phones in their hand, and so they see all of these things that, kind of when we were coming up, we had to physically go somewhere to see it, right? They see all of this in the palm of their hand, and they're developing this idea of the world, and kind of like trying to figure out what it is that they want to do, but it's not that they don't want to work. As soon as they find something they want to do, they'll work their asses off for it. And I've seen it. I've got siblings and little brothers and little sisters, and it's just so that's one of the stigmas. And that other stigma that exists about the industry, I think, is the one that we need to focus on trying to alter, trying to change, right? And because kids just aren't taught about it. I mean, they're in high school, nobody knows about this. Nobody knows about this industry. And the ones that do, especially like if you're talking about food service as a whole, that's the industry that everybody's taught that, oh, if you don't get a college degree, if you don't have a college education, you're going to get stuck in this industry. Well, stuck in this industry? What are you talking about? I mean, like we said, there's so many different paths, so many different ways, so many different abilities that you have to succeed in it. It's just the education isn't there as to how, right? I don't know.
Well, I think on the first, I think, no, it's good, man. I think on the first point, Um, what was the first point? Was it the hardworking aspect?
Yeah. Hard work.
Um, I mean, I had something really good for you on that, and I totally forgot what it was. Should I be taking notes? I feel
No,
like
I've
I feel like the
learned.
note-taking thing
That's why you
is
see me
like,
jotting things down over here,
dude,
because I've learned that, we talk about so much that if I
I
don't write it
know
down,
you
you'll
didn't
go
prep.
through your whole life story and I'll be like, so what'd you have for breakfast, bro?
Didn't prep me on the note-taking thing, man. But what? I'm sorry. So what was the first point that you were
So
making, though? I apologize.
no, it's okay. That the stigma exists around the younger generation that they don't want to work
Oh,
hard.
exactly. So I will tell you this. So we built our first restaurant on the campus of the University of New Hampshire, right? So we're in the town at UNH, and obviously the labor pool that we're going to get to operate the restaurant with us is going to be students from UNH. I have never seen harder working human beings than these 18, 19, 20-year-olds that we were getting from UNH. Honestly, blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. I would tell everybody to go open a business on a college campus because those kids work their ass off. They don't have any money, so maybe you don't want to open your business there, but they work their ass off, man. So I feel like I completely agree with your sentiment that we are evolving. The ecosystems that we live in are evolving, right? Things like, technology and stuff at our fingertips is changing our behavior, is changing our abilities to do different things. It's putting more power in front of us to lean into different things. So I would totally agree that if we evolve with our younger generation and we understand, whether it's from a desire and passion and purpose and technology and whatever standpoint, if we all evolve together, I think that these stigmas would go away, because we're trying to put Gen Z into a box that the millennials built, right? And then we're trying to put millennials into a box that the boomers built or whatever, right?
Yep.
And that doesn't work, right? So we need to understand that life and this process that we call life is a ball of clay that's like constantly being molded, and is nothing wrong with that. It's actually a beautiful thing. Like when we set up our restaurant, the entire way that we did things was uh, analyzing and understanding, the humans that we are with to operate it, and how, as much as obviously you keep the integrity of the concept, intact, but you have to understand that the mode of operation and the way that you're going to create the processes, that you have to mold it to some degree to the humans that are actually going to be the ones executing the process. I would agree, man. I think that the more that we sort of the more that we act out of trying to, synthesize and fuse the different generations and evolve together, I think that stigma will be relieved for sure.
Yeah. No, I think you're right. I think that's very, very well said. And that's exactly what needs to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
and I think that it can. I don't know if I necessarily think that it will, but I think that it can, and I think that what we're doing right now, what you're doing with your videos, what I'm doing with the podcast, what Rich is doing with everything that he is, and all of this obviously specifically surrounding the industry, except for your little nuggets of wisdom, which are kind of very broad, and I like that. But I think that's what's going to be the tipping point, right? Because that's where a lot of the attention is, and if we want to make an impact, then we have to first get the attention, then we have to keep the attention. So I think a very good and big place to start is, through the technology that we now have available to us today. What about quantum physics? What about quantum? You were hoping I would ask.
I want to talk about quantum physics. Yeah, man. I think that, it's man, it's indicative of just every aspect of life, isn't it? It's like we can be so easily driven by different agendas. We can be so easily driven by fear, like I think, it's funny, man. Like I don't get into politics because honestly, it stresses me out, but it's amazing. I cannot, so I don't want to talk politics and I honestly don't involve myself because it's so stressful, but it's like, we've adopted this like sort of absolutism, right? If that's even a word. Like we have this like polarity of absolutism where it's like, it's black and white, like, and that's it. There is no gray. You either agree with me or you agree with me. And if you don't, you suck, and it's like, and so at some point, I agree, at some point, that absolutism seeps its way into every other aspect of life, right? And the problem is then we fear the other side, right? So if I'm on the left and I fear the right and everything that and I'm on the right, I fear the left and everything that they want. And I think that really bled its way into every industry, into this industry, where it's like, at some point it was like college was the only way, and it's like, and there were a lot of people that went to college and graduated college and went into, started working for an agency or some company or whatever, and were like, oh shit, I'm an artist. Whoops. I probably should have done that. And everybody told me, you can't be an artist. People told me that when I was writing songs. They're like, that's a nice hobby. It's like, I don't want it to be on. Like, I love doing this. Like, I would do this every day, So at some point, this sort of absolutism reigned. And I think that we only get back or get to where we want to be is to try to defeat that as much as possible and try to understand that we're all different humans. It takes all kinds with different ideas and different intentions and different wants and needs, and try to relieve these stigmas of, back to that, these stigmas that have been placed on different roles in different industries and so on. When you look at the way that technology is advancing, right? There's going to be so much that's needed from a technological aspect, that goes right back to all of the different things that we've talked about. It goes right back to the trades. It goes right back to being able to work with your hands and fix things and repair things and design things and things like that. So it really takes life takes a holistic effort, right?
Yeah.
Like life is holistic. Life
Yeah.
is not linear. It's not analog. Yes, it gets granular in the tactics and things like that. But to succeed in life as a person, to be happy, to feel fulfilled, it has to be holistic.
Yeah.
It really does. It takes a village. It takes interfacing with people that know different things than you know. It takes interfacing with people that know how to do things that you don't know how to do. And so I don't know. So I guess it's kind of more of a like zooming out of this whole thing, which is I think the way that my mind, works. But
Well, I did mention quantum physics, so it makes sense that you zoomed out,
yes.
But to your point, you're absolutely right. And in addition to the things that you just listed, I think realizing that chaos and order are the same thing, is the biggest thing. It made me think of it when you talked about the absolutism and politics but you're right, that divide, right? And the country, the world, the universe needs both chaos and order. There's not one without the other. There is no order without chaos, and so once people start to understand that chaos and order are one and the same thing, then they can move forward in unison, and I mean, really, holism, right?
Yeah.
Holistic. And so that I said my piece. That's all I want to say. I won't get into politics either.
No. This is a nasty place.
Yeah. But no, and you're absolutely right. So I think that's a great way to describe it. And hopefully technology, helps in doing that and doesn't hurt in doing that, because I think it could probably go both ways depending on how we use it.
100% it could. Well, we're gonna have, again, it's just life, right? You're gonna have people that use technology for what they can do with it and don't really have a barometer on ethic, and you're gonna have the opposite, which is gonna be trying to protect the the stewardship of it and have it contribute in a positive way to our existence, and there's going to be both sides, there always is.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
I know
So
what side I'm on. What side are you on?
doesn't matter. I'm gonna hate you if you're not on the same one. No.
Well done. Well played.
No. So no, that's really cool. And I know you got a lot of meetings today. So
Oh, let's keep going, man. This is awesome.
yeah, no, and I'm sorry for jumping around so much, but somebody
Yeah.
like you, when I'm talking to you, you say so many different things, and that's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. You say so many
Yeah.
different things in your answers. It's like I have to pick 3 or 4 of them, and by the time the conversation is done, it's like we already forgot about what was in the middle of it, So,
Yeah. Oh, I hear you. Yeah.
but no, this is great. So, I'm trying to pick out another thing that you said here. So. So tell me a little bit about when you built and operated those restaurants. What why?
Wow. That is that is a great question. I mean, the why for me, man, is dude, the why for me is simple. Like I can't stop. Like I can't stop going to the next level. I can't stop doing the next thing. Like I am literally, if you try to make me be complacent, I will freak the F out on you. I will freak out. I literally, like, I can't live my life. Like, my poor wife, I love her to death. She puts up with me. It's like, I can't, I can't, I can't operate unless I'm back in door corner. I guess kind of, right? Like, I can't operate. Like, if you, like, I don't, like, we have like a show we watch, like, we'll watch like, we'll watch a couple shows, but like just like sit on the couch and like watch TV. Like I can't do it. Like I can't freak out. So like I am just always like, what's the next thing? What is it out there? What can we create? What's the next level I want to get to in my journey, whether it's personally, professionally, like what's the threshold? What's the next milestone? Like I can't stop, right? It's like I'm not happy with like, hey, this is cool. We design really cool restaurants and we're like work with these like James Beard award winning chefs and like this is amazing. Like this is our business. And I just, even though that's amazing and it's such a beautiful apex, it's like I'm always like, but what's the next thing? But what's
Yeah.
the next thing? But what's the next thing? And so it's a little bit of a curse, admittedly, as well. But that's why. That's why, because I
That's
just
cool.
can't stop because I got to get to the next level. Look I've designed amazing restaurants. I've designed what I consider to be the coolest restaurants in Chicago. Let's go design one now. Let's go design one. I got an idea for a restaurant. I got a cool concept. My chef friend, he's got this amazing idea for food and a concept. Like, let's go build it. The hell with it. Let's go do the whole thing from start to finish.
So what causes that transition? Is it when you plateau on something, or can it be like when you're in the middle of something and then you're like, oh man, this next thing I can do better, or is it once you've been kind of, you're going like this and then kind of levels out a little bit?
I think the plateau is a thing. I think that at some point I get to a transition or I hit a ceiling, for lack of a better term, I guess, where I can look at a project that I'm just saying this because I remember this sort of happening where it's like, okay, I look at a project and I was like, okay, we built this restaurant and it's open and I get it all. I get it. I get why we designed it, the workflows, the steps, the mechanicals, the equipment, the menu, the engineering, the fire safety, the life safety. Like I get it all. It's cool. Okay. Do I want to go just replicate that and do it again? Or like, what's the next challenge I can give myself beyond that ceiling? So maybe that's, again, I'm on the couch here today, guys. I'm on the couch. This is amazing. Again, it's like I can't handle ceilings.
Yeah.
I can't, right? And maybe it's because I'm 6'4" or something, but like I can't handle ceilings, man. I got to be breaking through ceilings constantly. And if I feel like I get to it, I can't live there for very long. I really can't. I gotta go. Yeah. So I guess that's that's probably my biggest why, for everything that I do.
That's great. I mean, I got to say that is great. That keeps you from ever being complacent. I mean, it sounds like, you keep your foot on the gas. It doesn't matter what direction you have to turn, your foot's still on the gas.
It's both, man. It's both. Like it's both because like I always got to be fighting for something. But the problem is if you're never at least what's the word? Like I'm never satisfied.
Yeah.
So there's definitely a psychosis. Yeah, insatiable. There's definitely a psychosis to that. Like there's definitely like something that I'm not going to lie and say that a part of me wishes that I was at some point more than I am, but I also most of the time see the other side of the fence, which is an amazing area where I'm always fighting for something. I'm always creating something. I mean, back to the blank canvas thing. I mean, my why is if there's a canvas in front of me, I got to go explore it, man. Or I got to go, it's like, um, I'm a pretty environmentally conscious person. Like, probably, actually, I should say a really environmentally conscious person. Like, I feel like we kind of got one planet we all live on, and and it doesn't have to be a political thing. Let's just be good stewards of our earth, and let's just like kind of do the right thing, and much as we can, but without being a crazy person about it, or
Yeah,
whatever,
right.
So like,
Don't chain yourself to a tree now.
yeah, like I but like, and if that's your thing, like that's cool. Like, no judgment about it. Like, it's cool. But like for me, it's just like, it's like, I've started my own t-shirt company, and I did that for a while, and I started my own event agency, like trying to help events be more, sustainable and things like that. I've been in marketing. I've done that. Like, so my why is just, man, we've given this short window of existence on such a big, amazing earth, and I just feel like I just gotta experience as much as I can and do as much as I can, because I want to make the most of this thing, you know. So I don't know. That's my why.
No, that's really good. So is this? I mean, you have a very, I think you have a very unique mindset. There's, I think there's a lot of people that have a similar mindset, but probably not a lot of people that are as vocal about it. So take that how you will,
Really?
but it's a good thing. No, but I mean, and I have a point to this, but
Yeah.
this mindset that you have, um, is it something that is this a way that you want to teach your kids? You have one son,
Uh,
one
I
son,
have a son and two daughters.
son, and two daughters too, huh?
Yeah, and a couple of fish. Yeah.
Oh wow, good for
Yeah.
you for the fish.
Yeah. Yeah.
just,
If they're
just
still
kidding.
alive, I don't know. I don't know who feeds them, to be quite honest with you.
No,
It's
that's
awful.
that's really awesome. I've got two daughters myself, and I'm afraid to try for a third, so I'm about done. But so that question, all your kids, then, is this mindset something that you want them to have?
I'm so scared about. Isn't this this? No, so this is interesting. I am, man. I think about this a lot. So we have an 8, a 6, and a 9, almost 10-month-old, and man, I think about this a lot. I think about my curses. Is that something that they're going to adopt just genetically? Is it something that I it's funny, man. I think about the fact that dad's never at rest. You know,
Mhm.
I think that I can see the beauty in that a lot of times, but sometimes it's really tough, man. Sometimes it's hard to never feel at rest. Um, and so I worry a little bit about that, because if should that be something, that mindset that I inadvertently influence them to have because they watch dad and they watch mom. I hope that does bring. I hope that they can see the peace and harmony and beauty of that in their life, um, as much or more than I do on a daily basis. So I guess sort of more granular. Like we're talking a lot about being happy these days in a lot of circles. You know what I mean? It's like, you follow Gary Vee and stuff like that. There's a lot of happiness talk going on right now, and I'm glad that like there's that texture happening, because that's something that I think about a lot with the kids, which is I want them so badly to understand a couple things, and these things I didn't understand till much a later age, like almost recently. So I hope, like actually just like literally just now. uh, no, but like for real, man. Like it. I want them a couple things. One, to always lean into the thing, no matter what it is, that fills their soul, that makes them happy, um, that gets them up in the morning, that keeps a smile on their face. It doesn't matter what it is. And I really firmly believe that. Um, I want them to know to not listen to the noise and not listen to a lot of the outside influence that's out there, that would try to steer them in a direction away from what their what their makeup is telling them they should be focused on.
So how would you tell them how to draw the line between passion and practicality?
So here's how. The second thing is, I heard an unbelievably insightful thing the other day. I think it was Kathy Heller's podcast. What was it? Quit Your Day Job, Don't Quit Your Day Job, something like that. But Kathy Heller, she's amazing. You're also amazing, Josh.
Oh,
Sorry.
thanks, man.
Um,
Jeez.
she said, your purpose doesn't change, but your passions will. And when that was said to me, I was like, wow, if that isn't me to a T, right? I know what my purpose is in life. It's a little bit broad, but I know that I'm so hell-bent every day on trying to contribute a positive intent and to make my small corner of the world that I operate in a little bit better place, and hopefully, help people just a little bit. I have this, and it comes to life in a bunch of different ways, but I'm just so driven to make corners of the world a little better place for people. And but my passions and the vehicle to which I've done that have changed, and I didn't always understand that those passions would change. And sometimes that frustrated me because I felt like I was moving around to different channels and moving to different things and moving to different interests and what have you. And it was great to hear your story, because I identified with so much of that. You put so much energy into one direction. They're like, whoop, I'm on air now.
Yeah.
And like sometimes sometimes it's hard to reconcile that. Sometimes it's like, what's wrong with me? You know what I mean? Is kind of like the thing that I've asked myself numerous times. And when I heard that, I was like, okay, like this is kind of making sense now, because as long as it's all built on this foundation of purpose and really knowing like what that mission and that purpose is, the house can have a lot of different rooms. There can be a lot of different passions. There can be a blender for, in the kitchen, and a guitar hanging on the wall in this room, and a bike in the garage, and whatever, like all these different passions and vehicles. That's okay. It's okay to have that. So I guess the way that I would try to influence them and really develop that idea in their head is to really, at some point in their life, whenever it makes sense, to really understand what their purpose is. What's kind of filling their soul, and then to allow themselves and give themselves permission for that to come to life in a lot of different ways, and allow themselves to see that coming to life in a lot of different ways, whether it's different industries, it's different jobs, it's different hobbies, it's different passions, whatever it is. As long as the purpose is there and you understand it, I think that's where you start.
Oh man, that's such a great answer. I like that. I wrote that down and I underlined it. Purpose doesn't change, but passion does.
Dude, so true.
That's remarkable. I mean, it's such a simple statement, but it
Yeah.
is so true, because I think I said this in my talk in Miami, that if you would have told me to follow my passion when I was a 15-year-old kid, man, I would have been a street racer or something, and passions change, right?
100%. Well, think about it from a music aspect. It's like, for me, I always thought my purpose was writing songs. Like that is something that, like, I communicate that way. When I have a feeling about something, I communicate it through a song. I wrote a song about it, and that's it just allows me to, like, it's cathartic. I release it all out through a song. Like, this is how I do it.
You're gonna write a song about this podcast?
I am already writing it over here that you don't even realize, and I'm writing it.
I cried today.
We're going to do a duet on the next podcast is what's happening. I'm going to write a duet for us. I thought that was my purpose, and it's not my purpose. It's a passion. It's probably one of the biggest ones, if not the biggest one to some degree, but it wasn't my purpose. My purpose is this undying need to share my journey and my feelings and be authentic and real about it, and be okay with sharing my struggles and the stuff that I go through. And I wanted to help people. Like my little nuggets, I'm going to do one on this, but like my little nuggets of stuff that I talk about on my little morning pep talks, that's stuff I struggle with. That's stuff I fail at. I'm literally just regurgitating my failures so other people can maybe have that moment of awareness and have validation and have the acceptance that they're looking for to be okay with the failures.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think you talked about this recently, and Evan talked about this recently, and I'm glad that we're all collectively talking about this, winning and losing thing, and the idea of like, at some point along the lines, this idea of losing became this sort of like a negative connotation.
Yeah.
And losing stops you. The fear of losing, the fear of anything, but the fear of losing stops you. It's like, one of my greatest joys is coaching my son's flag football team on various teams. And it's like literally my biggest joy. Like I look forward all week to being out on the field with the kids on Saturday or on Sunday and just crushing for an hour. And like, it's honestly like I look forward to it all week long. And I see it in the kids. If the kids think they're going to fail, it changes, right? The way they hold themselves change, the energy changes. Like it's easy for them to fall into that. And we have to understand that the winning comes from doing. Like the joy and the fulfillment in the winning. And I know this is hard to sink in for even me as a 41-year-old adult, let alone for an 8-year-old kid. The joy comes from just being able to do it. The winning comes from just being able to do it. It doesn't mean that you can't be competitive. It doesn't mean that you don't want the scoreboard to be in your favor. I get it. I do too. I grew up playing hockey my entire life. I want to win the game. I want the scoreboard to be in my favor. But at a very fundamental and existential and subatomic level, the joy and the winning comes from the ability to do. Like I tell the kids, like, you are standing out on a football field in a sunny day on a turf field in the United States of America, and you parents drove you here, and look at the opportunity and the ability you guys have to stand here with me at this moment right now. The majority of the world can't do this.
Yeah.
Right? You won. You made it.
Yep.
You made it to today. You're alive and you're healthy. Already you won. You're standing out in the field playing football with all your friends. I mean, how many levels do you win, right? So I always tell Jack, our son, I was like, look, we don't win and we don't win and lose. We win and we learn, right?
Yes.
So I don't care if the scoreboard isn't in your favor, right? Number one, you won because you're out here. Number two, you just got better at the thing that you do, right? You're a better flag football player today because you just ran around on the field for an hour, right? You won on every level. Take a moment. You can have a desire to have that scoreboard be in your favor, and I get it because I'm the same way, and I wish it was too. But that doesn't mean I lost today. I won on every level today.
Well, again, we talk about chaos and order. Without discipline, you can't appreciate victory. You know, or I'm sorry, without disappointment, you can't appreciate victory. And that's what it is. But you're right. As long as you're doing something. So first, we already won. But as long as you're doing something and you're working towards something, you're getting better at it. And if you lose, you're gonna get better. I mean, as long as you take that as a learning experience. My dad always said, when I moved out to Hollywood, he goes, son, the success rate in Hollywood is 100%, so long as you never give up. And I was like, can I come work with you?
It's amazing. It's
No,
amazing.
but
I have a sign outside there. I don't mean to cut you off, but I have a sign outside of their bedrooms, and it says, it said they something to the effect of, they can't beat you if you never quit.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
The same thing. But yeah, so I love that. I love that.
No, that's cool, and there's a lot to say about that. But you're right. We've already won.
Yeah.
Most of us.
I win because I get to sit here, and I woke up this morning and got my kids off to school, and I get to sit here and talk to you, man. I mean,
I know. Look at this.
We made it, dude. We made it.
We're there, bro. Yeah. Like they say in Dumb and Dumber. We're there.
We're there. Oh my goodness, man.
Oh, very cool.
That's big stuff, man. I mean, it's we've been conditioned to not take the shot. A lot of us.
Yeah.
I think. Let me rephrase that. I've been conditioned to not take the shot. I
Well played.
feel that.
Well played.
I feel that. I don't want to speak for anybody else, but I feel that.
No, I don't mind. Go ahead.
You know, I feel like I
Sorry.
feel like playing hockey, I didn't take the shots and the chances that I should have because I didn't know if I was going to succeed at that moment.
Mhm.
And I didn't take the shot.
Mhm.
And that's what I want to impress on my kids.
Yes.
Take the shot. It doesn't matter. Take the shot.
Yep.
Right? Because if you don't, you will regret that you didn't.
An opportunity doesn't just strike once. I think that's a common misconception from a lot of
Yeah.
people. They think they only have one opportunity. I mean, depending on how you look at it, we're all in the grand. We have one opportunity to live a good life, but each individual granularized opportunity, they come and go, man. I mean, it's always there. So you always have to take the shot. Doesn't matter if you make it or you miss. It doesn't matter. Take the shot.
Yes.
Because if you miss, you get the next one. I mean,
Yeah.
it's really simple when you step back and you think about it. But what Gretzky, right? You miss 100% of the shots you didn't take.
Yep. Don't
Nothing's-
skate where the puck. Don't skate where the puck is. Skate where it's gonna be.
There you go. So
That guy's got it. He's got it figured out, man. But isn't that interesting that it's like this is Gretzky's mindset? This is Wayne Gretzky's mindset. And if you've ever watched Wayne Gretzky play hockey, which I love hockey, so I have a lot, he looks like he's going so much slower than everybody else on the ice because the game is slower for him.
Yeah.
Because he's already 2, 3, 4 steps ahead of you. So he doesn't have to. It's not manic for him. He's already 3 steps ahead of you, man. And he played that way. And you could tell the way he played. It's like, you look at guys like, Barry Sanders and Emmett Smith and these guys, and it's like they already know what you're going to do before you do it yourself. They know what you're going to do before you know what you're going to do.
Yeah.
They know you that well, right? Because they've taken enough shots to figure it out. They've taken enough shots to know that, and they've adopted that mindset. And they realize that that's okay. And that's why they've been as successful as they've been,
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. I think this is the most random podcast I've ever done.
I'm sorry, man, dude. This is how I roll. So I
this is
apologize,
awesome.
dude. I apologize.
This is awesome. People are going to be listening all the way to the end. Like, I wonder what he's going to say last.
Oh boy.
No, but that's really cool. And I've taken up a lot of your time, but I think we should get together again, on another podcast and continue this. Maybe by the 5th or 6th podcast, it'll all come together, And,
Yeah, man.
But really, I mean, Bobby, thanks so much for your time and all your insight today. I mean, just wonderful stuff, man, and very inspirational. I think that a lot of people are going to have a lot of things to take away from the stuff that we've talked about today.
That's awesome, man. Well, I appreciate you having me here. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate your collaboration. I appreciate where people like me that are constantly moving to the next thing, and in some point a chaotic fashion. I appreciate folks like you that I appreciate the early adopter on some of in this space that you were, and being a trailblazer in this space and really bringing some amazing and value driven and entertaining programming, because it's people like you that are blazing the trail for the rest of us that are trying to figure ourselves out and figure out where we fit in and where our space is and where we feel like we can provide the most value and the most entertainment. And being able to watch what you're doing is honestly helped me out a lot. So I appreciate everything you're doing, and I appreciate what you're doing for the industry, man. It takes disruptors like yourself and like Rich and like these folks to really see a change that needs to happen. It's so easy to get on the bus and just ride on the bus and just you're going to the destination, and it takes people like you guys to kind of stick your head up and look around and go, hold on a second, guys, whoa, 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 like where are we going? You know what I mean? And so not the best analogy. Okay, so I hope that's not the last thing I say.
No,
But
spitballs at the bus driver.
but it takes have you seen that if you go to Target, have you seen that there's like a spitball gun where you like wad up like toilet paper and you like
No,
shoot like how is that even a thing? Like
I haven't seen that. No.
I think Jack was like, oh, I'm like, you're not getting that. I don't even know what that is. That's so ridiculous. So I apologize if whoever is the company that makes that thing. I'm not trying to be disparage your product. Like, what is it? It's like the mega spitball. Can you imagine what our homes would look like if I brought that home?
Oh my gosh.
A, I would have no toilet paper. B, I would have dried toilet paper on my walls that I would literally not be able to get off probably ever.
Sorry, I got stuffed poop emojis all over my house. So
oh, nice. There you go.
you know,
I'm gonna leave that alone. But it takes people like you to be disruptive in specifically in this case in the industry. The blue is the new white is absolutely an amazing intent and concept, and something that I think we all, at least I know I will get behind your mission and what you're doing, because it's important, man. So it's important.
well, thank you so much, Bobby. I really appreciate that. Why don't you tell people where they can find you, and we'll get on our way.
Well, listen, ride-alongs are available in Chicago. Just meet me at 4758 South Cicero. I get in somewhere between 8 and 10 in the morning, depending on what my morning responsibilities are. There is some crackers and water in the Jeep. Feel free to jump into the passenger behind and ride along with me for the day, and we'll have some fun. I never know. Just, you can Google Bobby Buivid, Buivid. Those handles are kind of all over.
Just Google me, bro.
Just Google me, guys. I don't know. Bobby Buivid. You find me on LinkedIn and Instagram, and then I kind of go by the moniker Life Not Yet Rated is a little something I developed. So you can go to lifenotyet.rated.com, and I'm trying to grow that as my sort of little hub for everything that I do and everything I'm involved in. And that's kind of been my mantra. Like my mantra has been, as someone that has gone through some different, transitions in his life, at no point, regardless of what you're going through, at no point, regardless of what milestone you're at, or change, or career change, or relationship change, at no point is there a rating or a label that's put on your life. It's like I think, what is it, like morning rooster prayers? I think that people do, where the idea that whenever the darkest of darkness is there, you have to understand that there's always the dawn that comes, and there's always, whenever you think it's over, you don't realize that there's actually a new beginning right there in front of you. And so that's kind of been my mantra. So Life Not Yet Rated, that's where you can find me.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Bobby. I appreciate your time today, man.
Heck yeah, man. Love you, dude. Have a great day.
All right. Adios.